Om Sada Shiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Om Bhadram Karne Bhishrunuyama Devaha Bhadram Pashyemakshabhiryajatraha Sthirairangai Stuštuvagum Sastanubhihi Vyashema Devahitam Yadayuhu Swasti na Indro Vruddhashravah Swasti nah Pusha Vishwavedaha Swasti nastarksho Arishtanemihi Swasti no Brihaspati'r Dadhatu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So we were in the 9th verse we completed, I think, where the Upanishad said that to attain this Amritatvam, Moksha, there is no other way other than this Jnanam. In fact, Pujya Swamiji used to also give another analogy. He used to say that suppose you want to go to Tirupati and have darshan of Venkateshwara, right, Balaji. Now you have so many ways to get to the top of the mountain. That is like the sadhana paddhatis are all different. It can be different, correct? Somebody is more interested in yoga sadhana. Somebody is more interested in some hatha yoga. Somebody is very interested in pranayama. Others are interested in just some bhakti or just karma yoga, correct? Attitude, cognitively approaching everything. Whatever may be, those are all the ways you actually prepare yourself for this jnana. So, from the point of sadhana, there are many different sadhanas which you can take up depending upon your own aptitude and whatever interests you, correct? In fact, Shankaracharya also, that's why even though he rejects Yoga Darshana as a Siddhanta, then he says whatever in other darshanas which do not contradict with the Veda, we will accept that. Okay, so that is how he is doing what is called known as the Samanvaya. So he tries to reconcile other darshanas also in the sense that whatever is Veda Viruddha, all those things have to be given up. Those things we cannot accept. But wherever the other darshanas also are given by big rishis and all that, correct? We do have respect for their intellect and whatever they have achieved. Wherever it is not Veda Viruddha and it is useful, we will take that. That is the approach. All the other Advaita Acharyas also have taken that. In fact, that is why even if you go to study Vedanta traditionally, first you have to study Nyaya. Because the Nyaya only gives us all the terminology. If you see in the traditional discourse, all the jargon, the terminology, those are all defined by the Nayayikas. So you have to study Nyaya first. And in fact, Pujya Swamiji was the first person who started teaching Vedanta in English without, although we all were exposed to some Nyaya, like Tarka Sangraha and all that, but his view was that if you are already educated in a modern system and you have got some degree and all that, you already have enough analytical skills and verbal skills, let us say. So you can still study the Bhashya and understand that. But traditionally, to have these verbal and analytical skills, Nyaya Shastra and Vyakarana one has to study. Without Nyaya and Vyakarana, you cannot enter Vedanta. Otherwise, they'll say it is Anyaya Vedanta. If you study Vedanta without Nyaya, it was called Anyaya Vedanta. But Swamiji was very particular that we studied the Vyakaranam at least. So we all studied the Paniniya Vyakaranam. But Nyaya was, what he felt was Nyaya, the starting point itself is not worth it. Because they start by giving a list of all the padarthas, correct? They say Dravya, Guna, all this. They give a list of the categories. And they start as though those categories are the truths or the They start that these categories are as though they are self-evident and they are the truth. And then they build everything on top of that. And mostly their Siddhanta is all based on whatever observable facts and then inferences based on that. But they have given us some framework in which we can identify whether an inference is proper or not. Okay. Or what is fallacious reasoning. That is called hetva bhasa and all that. Because normally whenever we do an inference, we have to give a hetu, correct? We have to give a basis for our inference. Whether that basis itself is proper or not, how do you identify? What are all the fallacious reasoning which people normally do? Things like this, the Nayayikas have analyzed, and we do take that. There is no problem for us in taking that. Similarly, of course, Vyakarana we should have, but Vyakarana also, there is a Darshana also based on that, that we reject. There is a Vyakarana Darshana also, they have their own some idea about Brahman and all that, which also we don't accept. But of course, Vyakarana as a Shastra is required. Purva Mimamsa also is required because they only lay down all the principles for interpreting the Veda. How do we arrive at the meaning of a particular Veda Bhaga? Okay, some portion of the Veda. How do we arrive at the meaning? Is they have given all the principles. Right? Typically, we say that there is one verse which we normally recite and we try to use those principles, which is that Upakrama Upasamharo Abhyasa Apurvata Phalam. Arthavadopapatti cha lingam tatparya nirnaye. Like this, there is a verses there. That is the Purva Mimamsa. Means you have to see how a section starts, how it ends. Because normally in all our traditional texts, they will initially give you a summary, then they expand on that, and again they will summarize the conclusions in the end. It is more like modern reports also, correct? You have an executive summary, then you have all the details, and finally also you will summarize and give your conclusions. So like that only, so we have to always see what is there in the beginning and how it ends. That is an important linga or indication of what that particular section of the Veda is trying to reveal to us. So Upakrama Upasamhara. Then Abhyasa, what is repeatedly said. Correct? Means that is the thing which is emphasized again and again. Means that has a certain, that also indicates what it is trying to reveal to us. Then Apurvata means, I already told you, any pramana has to reveal to us something which is not available through any other means of knowledge. Then only it is useful to us. What is the point if it is revealing the same thing? Means it's only a restatement or re-revelation which is not useful to us. So even in the case of Veda, in some cases the Veda also restates certain things. Those things we don't consider as a pramana vakya. We simply say it is anuvada. Means Veda is simply restating something to emphasize a particular point and all that. That's all. So we have to see what is it that Veda is revealing. That is the apurvata, means what is it uniquely revealing to us, which is not available to us from anywhere else. That also the apurvata it is called. Okay. So what did I say? Upakrama Upasamharo Abhyasa Apurvata Phalam. And again I told you already, I think yesterday or day before I told you, correct, that Veda is a deliberate means of knowledge. That means it cannot just reveal to you anything useless. Whatever it says should have something called phalavat arthabodhakatvam, means whatever meaning you interpret, that meaning should also give you some result. Otherwise, what is the point in having Veda as a pramana? Whatever the Veda says, it has to be connected to some phala. There has to be a purpose, result, and your interpretation also should lead you to that result. Correct? It cannot be a useless interpretation. So the phalam is very important. And then Arthavadopapatti cha, Arthavada. Also, Veda sometimes uses some stories. It is saying certain things as a praise and all that. Now, those things you have to interpret only figuratively, correct? Whatever you need to interpret figuratively or consider it just as a praise or a story, that is called Arthavada. And Upapatti means Veda itself is giving you some supporting logic, some analogies and all that. For example, in the Chandogya 6th chapter, to show that the Sadvastu alone is Satyam, Veda itself is giving the analogy of the pot and clay, jewelry and gold, and nail cutter and iron, all these things, correct? And it says that iron alone is Satyam, gold alone is Satyam, clay alone is Satyam. The other things are only names and forms, they do not really count. Like this, it gives certain analogies. Like this, in different sections also, Veda itself gives you many different Upapatti also. Now, these 6 things together, we use these principles only to arrive at the meaning of any section of the Veda. Now, this is where, that is why only Advaita alone you can interpret. If you apply all these principles, I don't know how they can even arrive at anything like Dvaita or Vishishtadvaita, and all those kind of interpretations are very far-fetched, really speaking. It's not possible. If you read the Upanishads with open mind, you cannot really arrive at anything other than that. So that is very clear. So now, why I am saying this is because, but the Purva Mimamsakas say this, say Amnayasya Kriyarthatvat Anarthakyam Atadarthanam. Like that, there is a saying in the Purva Mimamsa. Means the entire Veda is only to mandate Kriya, Karma. Anything other than Karma is all only Arthavada for it. It's all you have to somehow connect everything, even whatever the Upanishad says, either they will say Tattvamasi is also Upasana. Okay? That you have, it's not really a statement of fact, but it is simply, it is just praising the Jiva that you are Indra, Chandra and all. We also say, like somebody gives you 100 rupees, you will say you are Indra. So, like that, Veda is praising the Jiva that you are Brahman. Or you have to do Upasana. There are Upasanas, correct? Even Shalagrame Vishnu Dhyayet, we say. You do Upasana of Vishnu and Shalagrama. Everybody knows Shalagrama is not Vishnu, correct? Shalagrama has some samyam in the sense that if you open it, there is something like a chakra and all is there. So we then relate it with Vishnu also because he is a Shankha Chakradhari. So in that manner, that is called Sampat Upasana. Means something Utkrishta you visualize on a Nikrishta Vastu. So these 6 principles of interpretation we use, and we take it from the Purva Mimamsakas, even though their Siddhanta is different. Understand that. So the Vedantin is very open-minded in the sense that we take all the valid things from different darshanas and we use that. In fact, we use it better than the original darshinikas themselves because we use logic better. Using the same logic, we corner the Nayayikas. And we use the same Mimamsa principles and corner the Mimamsakas themselves. So that is the beauty of our Acharyas. So if you read all these things, of course, everybody need not read all the texts in detail. For moksha, you don't have to read everything. But anyway, what else you have to do? Once you come in this pursuit, you don't have anything better than reading different Vedanta books and all that, correct? So that way, over a period of time, anyway, you will get exposed to all these works. So anyway, so what I am trying to say here is, so there are so many paths and all that people are very fond of saying that, correct? Or there are 4 paths, Karma Yoga for the physical, Jnana Yoga for the intellectual, like this and all, there are some misconceptions are going around. And Raja Yoga for those who want to sit in meditation. Now, none of these paths themselves are directly they can give moksha or anything. They all can prepare you. That's all. Because even in the Gita, Bhagavan is very clear. In the 3rd chapter itself, he says, Lokes means Vivida Nishtha, he says. Lokes means Vivida Nishtha, Pura Prokta Mayanagha, Jnana Yogena Sankhyanam, Karma Yogena Yoginam. So Bhagavan is talking about twofold nishtha. Nishtha means more like a lifestyle, because there is a pravritti and nivritti. That is what is talked about in the Upanishads also, correct? Even in the Kathopanishad, the pravritti also is talked about, nivritti is talked about. So nivritti means you are a sannyasi, means you are exclusively only pursuing jnanam. In pravritti means you have to still give up the karma phala, correct? Karma phala tyaga you have to do, but you don't have to give up all the karma. You still do karma with yoga buddhi. Both of them are mumukshus only. You have to be a mumukshu to be a karma yogi. You have to accept Ishvara as karma phala data. You should have prasada buddhi. Without all these things, there is no karma yoga. Understand that? Because there is a misconception that karma yoga means simply doing some social service, or if you do some pro bono work, it is karma yoga. That's not karma yoga. Okay. So these two margas or lifestyle are there, but both of them have to still do Shravana Manana Nididhyasanam. Understand that? That is the Sakshat Karanam for Jnanam, and Jnana Deva Kaivalyam. In fact, this Upanishad itself is called Kaivalya Upanishad. In fact, I didn't tell you the meaning of Kaivalyam itself, I think. Somehow I missed it. Maybe this is the right time to say that, because the saying is that Jnana Deva Kaivalyam, like that there is a saying also is there. So Kaivalyam means Kevalasya Bhavaha Kaivalyam. Of course, in Tamil, the word Kevalam has a bad meaning. Okay. So it's not the same. So Kevalam means only. Now, when we talk about the Vastu alone is there, correct? That's what we say, Ekameva Advitiyam. It is there without any Sajatiya, Vijatiya, Swagata Bheda, we say. It doesn't have any other entity in its same class. It does not have any entities in other classes or categories. And within it also, it doesn't have any parts or divisions. So it is a partless whole that alone is there really. That is the Kevalasya Bhava, Kaivalyam. Means again, Kaivalyam also is pointing out to the same limitless conscious being alone, because that alone is there. There is no second thing. That is the meaning of Kaivalya also. So the moksha also is Kaivalyam really, because in moksha, you understand that there is no other entity other than yourself. You are the only one, only Satya Vastu is yourself. So that's what this Kaivalya also is about. But this Kaivalya Upanishad also, in another way also, it is talking about Kaivalyam in the sense that if you are leading a very reclusive life and all that, correct? Because here mostly it is talking about sannyasa, because na karmana na prajaya dhane na tyage naike amritatvama nashuhu and all we saw already. It is talking about yatis. So sannyasa also is promoted by this particular Upanishad. That way also it is called a Kaivalya Upanishad, you can say. So here, these four paths which will lead you, all paths are leading you to moksha and all, you can say in one way, in the sense that all of them are preparing you for moksha. But you cannot say that just you do karma yoga, you don't do any shastra, shravana, manana, nididhyasanam, you will get moksha. That's not possible. Understand that. Because even though you may climb the Tirupati mountain in different ways, nowadays you don't even have to climb. You may even go by helicopter, I think. Most probably there is a helipad there. Or you can climb by steps, you can go by road, or even there are 2-3 different roads, I don't know. So many ways you can reach. But finally, there is only one door through which you can do darshana of Bhagavan, correct? There is only one Garbhagriha. That Garbhagriha has only one door. So, Nanyah Pantha Vidyate. There is no other way. There is only one way. You have to go to that door, and through that only you can do darshana. So, like that, here, what the Upanishad is saying is, you can prepare yourself. There are n number of sadhanas you can do, but jnana, the whole thing is about preparing yourself for this jnana. So you cannot take away the jnana and simply say that you do some sadhana alone. The sadhana itself is for the purpose of jnanam only. And jnanadeva kaivalyam. That has to be very clear to all the students of Vedanta. So, nanyaf pantha vimuktaye. For this moksha, you cannot have any other, there are no other paths and all that. Okay. Then again the jnana phalam is talked about here, which is the sarvatma bhava. Sarvatma bhava was already said in the eighth mantra also, correct? Sabbrahma Shivas Sendra Sokshara Paramaswarat, all that. Similarly here, in fact, this next mantra is very similar to the Gita. Also in the 6th chapter, there is a similar verses there. Sarva bhutasthamaatmanam sarva bhutani chatmani sampashyan brahma paramam yati nanyena hetuna. So that is the verse here. The Gita verse also, the first line is same. Sarva bhutasthamaatmanam sarva bhutani chatmani ikshate yoga yuktatma sarvatra samadarshanaha. Like that, there is, I think, 623 or something. You can go and look it up. So in the 6th chapter, similar verses there in the Gita also. That is the jnana drishti. The jnana drishti is what? Sarva bhutastham atmanam means each and every living being is saying I, correct? That I is only one I. It is your I also. Whatever you say as I is the same thing. Each and every one of us, whenever you say I, it is the same vastu alone. There is only one vastu. There is only one conscious being which is available as I in each and every body, mind, sense complex. Okay. So that one has to understand that my Atma alone is the Atma of every other being. Sarva bhutastham atmanam. And also what? In me only all the beings are also there. Sarva bhutani cha atmani. Because Atma is vibhu. We already saw, correct? It is all pervasive. All the beings, including the space-time, everything is there only in this Atma. Therefore, so this is the vision of the jnani. So this vision again is for nididhyasanam only. So one has to assimilate this vision. That's why it says sampashyan, means you have to see this clearly. Seeing this clearly, what? What does the jnani attain means? Paramam Brahma, Brahma Paramam Yati. The jnani attains Brahman. So Brahmavid Brahmaiva Bhavati. That is the Upanishad Vakya also. The knower of Brahman becomes Brahman. Becomes mean he was already Brahman and he is just knowing that I am already Brahman. That's how you become Brahman. Correct? He is always accomplishing the accomplished, I have told you. And again what? Again the Upanishad repeats this. Na anyena hetuna. Again, only by seeing yourself as Brahman, knowing yourself as Brahman, you can have this Sarvatma Bhava also, correct? There is no other way in which you can have this Sarvatma Bhava. Jnanam, again, Jnanam alone, this Brahma Jnanam alone can give you this Sarvatma Bhava also. This cannot be attained through any other means. So that is made very clear here. Na anyena hetuna. There cannot be any other hetu for this, any other reason or cause. Only this Brahma Jnanam alone. Brahma Vidya, that's what Ashvalayana asked in the beginning, correct? So Brahma Vidya alone is the hetu for this reaching this Brahman, attaining Brahman. There is no other way, or there is no karma, etc. is required again. Because most people will say you have to know and do something. In fact, modern Vedanta also is the same thing. They will say Vedanta is theory, Vedanta is a map, it is like Google map. By just reading the Google map, you cannot attain. You are in Delhi, if you want to go to Rishikesh, by just reading Google map, can you go there? This is an argument. Okay. But that is only true for accomplishing the unaccomplished. Is that clear? People are comparing apples and oranges here. Going from Delhi to Rishikesh is what? Accomplishing the unaccomplished. For accomplishing the unaccomplished, always karma is required. Is that clear? You have knowledge also is required, in fact, because without knowledge you cannot do any karma. We all accept that. But that is accomplishing the unaccomplished. Here we are talking about the limitless. Limitless cannot be the unaccomplished. Limitless has to be available here and now. It is always accomplishing the accomplished means, how did the accomplished become unaccomplished? Means ajnanena. Then if ignorance is the problem, knowledge alone can be the solution. And after knowing, you don't have to do anything. Is it clear? You don't have to do some Shirasasana or something, then only it will fructify or anything like that. In fact, it is made very clear in the Brihadaranyaka also. What is said is, once you gain this knowledge, nobody can stop the jnana phalam from accruing. Why it is said is, because if you take the Karma Kanda, in Karma Kanda, the concept is that while living only you are doing all the karma, the Vaidika karma, and they say that punya is accruing. The Purva say it is called as Apurva, according to them. So you are gaining Apurva, and immediately it will not fructify, correct? Because right now you are still in Bhuloka only. This Apurva or Punya has to later on fructify for you in Swarga. Because you, after your death, you have to take another body. First you will take a Preta Sharira. But that is what all our, if you see the Antyeshti and all the other karma afterwards, Apara karma, for 13 days we actually feed the Preta Sharira only, so that the Preta Sharira grows properly and therefore they can travel well. But we say Tata, something like that, Tata bye bye. It's not very big Sanskrit. If you know some simple Sanskrit, you can understand all the rituals we do on all those 11 days and all that. And basically, in fact, we even prepare food without any salt. That is because the Preta should not get good food also. It should only get nourishment but not taste and get stuck for the taste here. We want to actually send them away. And on the journey also for them, any obstacles and all should not come. That's why we give all this dhanam and so many things, correct? You give umbrella, you give Godhanam, and there are so many things are there which are all like in the Puranas, the details are all there. But what I am saying is, literally, the Jiva cannot be there without a Sharira. Even after death, immediately the Jiva gets a Preta Sharira, it is said. That Preta Sharira only then eventually goes to either whatever Loka it is, or like Pitraloka or Devaloka or even Naraka, let us say, depending on what that person has done. So there you take another Deha, means that Punya has to fructify later on. Punya or Papa. It doesn't fructify immediately. That means the Devas can come and stop you before you get the phalam, like that. There can be a fear also. The Upanishad says that in the Brihadaranyaka, but it says in the case of Jnanam, nobody can stop you. Why? Because there is no gap between Jnanam and Moksha. As soon as Jnanam is there, Moksha also is there. That's why it is called Sadhyo Mukti. Okay. The Moksha is immediate. There is no gap between knowledge and Moksha. Knowledge itself is Moksha. And no, even Devas cannot stop you. Like that it explicitly says. The Upanishad itself is telling you, once you have Jnanam, nobody can stop you from, because you have become the very self of the Devas also. So what are they going to do now? They cannot do anything. At least before you gain Jnanam, they can do something. That's why the Upanishad also says, until that time you have to do all Deva Pujanam and all that. But once you have Jnanam, that's it. Nobody can stop the phala from coming to you, because the Jnanam eva moksha. There is no gap or anything between Jnanam and moksha. We have to understand that. So as soon as you see this, you become Brahman. Sampashyan Brahma Paramam Yati na Anyena Hetuna. There cannot be any other Hetu for that. And then, okay, further, it is giving one more upaya for you. Even though you have heard all these things, of course, I told you there can be, you did not understand what the Shruti says itself. That is called Prameya Asambhavana. Means Shruti is revealing to you the Prameya, correct? Whatever is to be known is revealed by the Shruti. Even that itself, if you don't understand, you have to do more Shravana. You have to understand the vision of the Shruti. Even if you have understood that, still there are some problems are there because you have vagueness, you have doubt, etc. Then you have to do Mananam. Now here, again, how to do this Tattvamasi Vichara, how to do Manana Nidhyasanam, that is said in the next 11th Vakya, and it is giving an analogy, beautiful analogy for that. Let us see that. Atmanam aranim kritva pranavam chottaranim jnana nirmathanabhyasat papam dahati panditaha or pasham dahati panditaha. Pasham is the better reading. There are two readings here, papam and pasham. Both can be taken in fact. So here it says Atmanam aranim kritva. Now here Atma is not Pratyegatma again. It is either Antakaranam or Jivatma. The individual self, or you can take it as even Antakarana. Because the Antakarana Avachinna Chaitanyam only, the Chaitanya which is manifest in one's Antakarana only is the individual. It's the Jiva. So that is Arani, means Arani Mathanam, like that some of you may have heard. If you even today, if you go to some traditional Vaidikas and when they do some big Satra or Yajna and all that, they don't use the matchbox and all that. Matchbox to get Agni is easy. Because the first karma you do in any of these Homa Yajna is called Ajnadhanam. Correct? You have to first get the Agni. You have to establish the Agni, then only everything else follows from there. So how do we then get the Agni? Traditionally what they do is they have a special kashta for that, correct? Special wood, dry wood. And in that also what? There will be a lower base with some kind of a hemispherical pole or something. In that you will put one stick. Upper base also will be there, and then you will have a rope to actually create friction. Okay. And then that friction will create the spark, and they will keep some cotton and some other things which can catch fire easily. And in fact, they do a lot of samskara also to that wood and all that. Even while doing that, while rotating that rope and that stick, they chant mantras. So the mantra samskaras are also done. That's how you are supposed to get the Agni. And that Agni you use in the Homa and all that. So that is the analogy given here. It says your Antakarana is one Arani, means the lower wooden base, let us say. Then what is the other one? Pranavam cha Uttararanim. Now Pranavam here is Brahma only, because Omkara is another name for Brahma. So one is the Jivatma, another is Param Brahma. And then what? So both these things, what do you do? The two things are there. Tat is there, Tvam is there. And then what do you do? Jnana Nirmathana Abhyasa. So Jnana Nirmathanam means now you are seeking this Atma Jnanam only, correct? And in that what do you do? Nirmathanam means, Nirmathanam is the, Mathanam is the actual, you are churning the rod, correct? The churning part is called the Mathana. Here churning means this Manana Nididhyasanam only is called as churning. You have to do Mananam with the rod. The rod itself is the, or they say that whatever that rope is the logic. The commentator says the rope used to do the churning is the logic which we use. So once you have these two things and you churn, what happens? Fire of knowledge is fire really. Whatever the knowledge which really happens, which is produced, is nothing but it is equivalent to the spark. And that what happens once the spark comes, any cotton, anything which is there, correct? That's all burnt. And whatever cotton or anything which is there is your papa or pasha. Pasha means bondage, correct? So that bondage itself is ignorance only, correct? Even in another Upanishad, it is talked about Vidyate Hridaya Grantihi Chidyante Sarva Samshayaha Kshiyante Chasya Karmani Tasmin drishte paravare. Like that also there is a verse. So the Hridaya Granthi, whatever is binding you, all those ropes, threads, whatever you can call, they all loosen up, or they are all burnt in this case. It says that those things what? They are all burnt here. Because papam or pasham dahati. Papam also you can take. Papam means all your karma are burnt along with the ignorance. Pasham means ignorance itself is considered as a bondage and that is burnt. So, papam dahati panditaha. No, the pandita is the jnani. The one who is doing this manana nididhyasanam is the jnani. He is the pandita because he has panda. Panda means this tattvamasi iti jnanam is called panda. And itaha means praptaha. That means panda, itaha together it becomes panditaha. Panda is the jnanam. And itaha means you have attained or you have gained that knowledge. The one who has gained this knowledge is called panditaha. So this pandita, he burns all his karma, all the jnanam, all the bondage, everything is gone, and this abhyasa you have to do for that. Means again it is a process, correct? It is very clear here, because sometimes I have seen many times it doesn't come very easily. The spark does not. It may take 10 minutes, 15 minutes also. Sometimes they keep on churning. There may be some YouTube videos also. You can go and see. If you put Arani Mathanam, I think it will come most probably. You can check out how they do it actually. I have seen it live also in some cases. So that analogy is given here so that you understand this Tattvamasi itself. You have to understand it by Mananam and Nididhyasanam. And when you understand that jnana itself is like a fire and it burns away everything. Same thing in Gita also we saw jnanagni dagdha karmanam and all. That's the same thing. We always say that jnana is the greatest purifier because it burns away everything. Now there may be a question then, how did all these problems start? Who is it who is deluded? Who is the ignorant person? All these things you may ask. So that's what now Upanishad is again taking you through all these things. In fact, it will do later on we'll see, it will do a avasthatraya viveka also. So till now, we saw that it was giving certain words, correct? And the meaning of those words, we understood that and how it reveals the nature of the Atma. But now what? It is going to also do a avasthatraya viveka, but for that it first tells you how all this ignorant, where did the ignorant people come from means what? That's the next verse. Let us see. Sayeva maya parimohita atma shariram asthaya karoti sarvam striyanna panadi vichitra bhogaihi sayeva jagrat paritriptimeti. So this Brahman, Saha here means Brahman. That is Prakritam, correct? We are talking about Brahma Vidya only. Brahman is the topic under discussion, and that Brahman, also another thing you can notice is suddenly the gender and all, it keeps on changing. Okay. So here, Saha means that Brahman is referred to in Brahman, the word is neuter actually. But here Upanishad is using masculine gender, Saha. So you can see that it can be, you can even say that it is deliberate because Brahman itself is beyond all genders and all that. The word Brahman according to Sanskrit grammar may be neuter, but that doesn't mean the Brahma Vastu is neuter or male or female or anything. That's why you can see that the Upanishads are using different pronouns belonging to different gender it may use. So here it is using Saha. Although it is saying Saha, it is referring to the Brahman. And so it says Saha eva, that Brahman alone or Brahman indeed what? Maya parimohita atma. That Brahman alone became deluded due to Maya. Because there is no other Chetana Vastu, correct? In fact, this question is asked even in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad also it comes. When it says Aham Brahmasmi iti Veda, like that it is there, correct? in that also, before that, it is said that this Brahman alone became deluded, and then Brahman alone knew itself as Aham Brahmasmi and then became everything. Like that it is there in the Vedanta Upanishad. So there also the Purva Pakshi is saying, how can Brahman become ignorant? Is it not absurd and all that? There is a question like that. But for that Bhashyakara answers, there is no other Chetana Vastu, correct? There is only one Chaitanyam. And where can ignorance belong? Ignorance cannot belong to Jada Vastu, correct? Ignorance is only owned up by some Chetana Vastu, somebody who is aware, somebody who is conscious. So that's why we have to say Brahman alone as avidya, ignorance. So that again the term Maya and avidya also is used interchangeably by the Upanishads and many acharyas also. Even if you take the Mandukya Karika, Anadhimayaya Suptaha Yada Jiva Prabudhyate Ajam Anidrama Swapnam Advaitam Budhyate Tada, like that. Gaudapadacharya also says that Anadhimayaya Suptaha, the Jiva itself is sleeping due to beginningless Maya, means avidya. Here also Maya Parimohita Atma, that Brahman alone is the Maya Parimohita Atma. So when did it become ignorant means that you cannot ask. That we say is beginningless. That's why it is, because any ajnanam is beginningless only. Understand that. It's a simple thing. See, if I ask you, do you know Chinese? What will you say? I think most of you do not know Chinese, or all of you do not know Chinese, correct? Then when did the Chinese ignorance start? Means you cannot give any starting time and all that, correct? Ignorance is always beginningless only. But it will end. Once you know Chinese, it will end. Any ignorance is beginningless. But once knowledge takes place, it will end. That is the idea here. So this Brahman alone is deluded by Maya, but this delusion also is not real delusion. Understand that. That is where most of the Dvaitins and Vishishtadvaitins also are all confused, because they do not understand the gradation of reality which we are talking about. From the Paramarthika Drishti, Brahman is Brahman alone. There is no Maya, there is no world, there is nothing. There is nobody to be deluded also. But once you start talking from the standpoint of the world, you have to talk about the deluded jivas and all that, correct? There is no other way. And once you talk about that, there is only one Chaitanya Vastu available. So you have to say Brahman alone. That's why Upanishad itself says Anena Jivana Anupravishya, Anena Jivena Anupravishya and all that. So Brahman alone entered the Srishti after creating it as Jiva. Means Brahman alone is available for you to know also, but Brahman alone is deluded. That also we have to understand from that. And even this Maya and Avidya and all, Bhashyakara also equates it in the Brahma Sutra. In many other, most acharyas also consider Maya and Avidya as one and the same. Why I am telling you this is, some acharyas have some difference of opinion also. Some people say individual, from the standpoint of individual, Avidya is there. From the standpoint of the totality, Maya is there. But they still say Maya is different from Avidya and all that. But my personal understanding is that it is better to not have too many things, correct? The idea is that either whether it is Avidya or Maya, all of them are potential states, correct? Because we say when this variegated, differentiated world, when it resolves in Pralaya, where does it go? Means it becomes Avyakrita, Avyakta, Prakriti and all these words, and Maya. So Bhashyakara himself uses and says these are all synonymously, only he uses that. That whether you say Maya or Prakriti or Avyakta or Avyakrita, all these things are same only. It means the same. Means from a total standpoint, the potential state is called Avyakrita or Maya. But in the totality, individual jivas are also included, correct? Individual jivas, because we say even after Pralaya, the jivas are also Nityam. Till the time you gain knowledge, jiva is always there. Even though the jivas, all the jivas become potential, go into a potential state in Mahapralaya, they will all come back in the next cycle of creation. Because the karma also is there in potential state. So that karma will again bring you back. Is that clear? So that everybody accepts all the jivas are in potential state, and that is Maya. Now every day you are sleeping, correct? That is also a potential state. And Bhashyakara clearly says, why do you even wake up from sleep? Because the karma and avidya and all are potentially there still. Otherwise, nobody will wake up. All to have moksha, all you have to do is take some sleeping pill, go to sleep. You don't have to worry about anything, correct? But it's not that easy. So, Bhashyakara says there is a bija is there. And even jnana itself, the function of jnanam, the vrittik jnanam, or whatever jnanam we gain through all this study of the Shastra is to burn this bija. Only when this ajnana bija is burnt, then there is no more jiva there. And that's how mukti is attained and all that. So this individual's potential, why should it be any different from the totality itself? It's all potential state. You understand what I'm saying? Whether you consider it from an individual standpoint, you can call it avidya, fine. But in totality also, all jivas go into potential state in Mahapralaya, we say. That is like everybody is sleeping totally. But why should one potential state be any different from another? It's all the same, really. We don't have to propose two different things and make it more complicated. Understand this. The whole teaching is only for, this is all Adhyaropa also at the end of the day. Understand this. In Adhyaropa, we have to provide an Adhyaropa which explains away everything. But we should also keep it simple, I think. We don't have to complicate the Adhyaropa too much, because at the end of the day, Apavada has to be done. And we don't have to say that Maya is separate, Avidya is separate and all that. But Upanishads and most Acharyas also are of the same view. You can see that Upanishad uses the word Avidya, Maya and all interchangeably everywhere. And even Gaudapada Acharya uses like that. So here, this particular thing is definitely related to an individual jiva only, because it is saying what? Maya parimohita atma shariram asthaya. Very clear, correct? It is there in the sharira. It takes up a sharira. It becomes a shariri. Brahman alone has become the dehi or shariri, and Brahman alone is Maya parimohita atma. And what then it does everything? It says karoti sarvam. All the activities are done by this Brahman alone. And what kind of activities? It is giving a list. Stri anna panadi vichitra bhogaihi. So all kinds of enjoyments like eating, drinking, and also courting the opposite sex and all that. So stri anna panadi vichitra bhogaihi is all done by Brahman alone, by the deluded Brahman, which is called Jiva, which is the individual self. And what? Sayeva Jagrab Paritriptim Eti. That Brahman alone, which has become Jiva, no? It gains certain Sukha and Tripti in the Jagrad Avastha, correct? So we cannot deny that everybody is after Karma Phala because some Tripti they gain out of that. That once we analyze that, we can say it is having some defects, that it is Dukkha Mishritvam is there, it is Anityam and all that. But still, everybody experiences Sukha also now and then. And that Sukha goes, again Dukkha is there, all that is fine. So it is Sukha, Dukkha, like that, it keeps on going. But you do attain some Tripti and Sukha in the Jagrat. So Jagrat Paritriptam Eti. So this Brahman alone, due to this avidya, becomes deluded and does so many activities. And in the Jagrad Avastha, the Jiva attains some Tripti. So this is said, so here Jagrad Avastha is introduced. That Jagrad Avastha, along with the Jagrad Avastha, the what we call as the individual also, the one who is the waker, correct? The waker and the waking world. Always we take it together. The waker is there, the waking world. Both are introduced here. Then what? Swapne sa jivaha sukha dukkha bhokta. Somayaya kalpita jiva loke sushupti kale sakale viline tamobhibhutah bhutas sukharupam eti. So swapne. Next is what? Swapna. In the swapna, what happens then? In swapna also the individual is sukha dukkha bhokta, correct? You are enjoying sukham and dukkham. Sometimes you have nice sweet dreams. Sometimes you have nightmares. That means there also there is sukham and dukkham. But in swapna again, it is all your own. It's only jiva srishti. It is totally pratibhasikam. Only you see your swapna, and that is also swamayaya, it is said again. Okay, it is your own karma, your own avidya alone is and your own mind is projecting the entire swapna loka. So it is kalpita jiva loke, it says. In the kalpita jiva loka, you become the bhokta, sukha dukkha bhokta. Means that the entire swapna loka, the swapna world, is only imagined or projected by you, your own mind. So it is only for you, and in that you are a bhokta. And then in sushupti what happens? Sushupti kale sakale viline means everything is resolved. All the mind and indriyas, they all resolve. Only the prana alone is functioning. Prana functions still. If the prana doesn't function, means that's all. Then it becomes a dead body, correct? So prana is still functioning, but all the indriyas and mind, they all resolve into what? Means tamobi bhutaha. They all go into a potential state. That is what is called as tamas here. Or this it is also called bija or mula vidya, and all these words are all used by different acharyas. But basically when you sleep also, this entire thing resolves into tamas or ignorance or darkness, whatever you can call, or potential state. You can take it as a potential state or a causal state. But in that sukha rupam eti, why? Because there is no subject-object division. Sushupti is the closest to our swarupa, because there is no dvaita there. There is no subject-object division, but still I am there. I am there only as existence and consciousness. So in Sushupti, regardless of what happened to you in Swapna and waking, always it is an enjoyable thing for everybody, correct? In Sushupti only, everybody is equal. The king's sleep is the same as the beggar's sleep. There is no difference there. So everybody attains Sukham. That's why, in fact, everybody wants to have a good night's sleep, whoever it may be. So that is Sukha Rupam. There is a Sukham Aham Aswapsam, like this, like that we are also able to recollect it. Once you get up, you say, I did not know anything, I slept well. Like this, we are able to recollect whatever Sukha we had in the Sushupti. So, all these three avasthas have been introduced here. Then what will happen? Then it will show that this Brahman alone is the Sakshi, is the one which supports all these three lokas. Sorry, these three, whatever. You can say loka also, because it is Jagarita loka, Swapna loka and all we can say. So all these three states, Brahman alone is the invariable. It is the on that only all these states are coming and going. That's why generally all of us take the waking self as a reality, as though that is our very nature. But the Upanishad is asking you to be the witness of all three states. That is your reality. If you look upon yourself as the witness of all the states, then the waking individuality is also not intrinsic to you. It is only transient. But that is the most difficult thing to understand. Your very individuality is not intrinsic to your nature, because this individuality comes and goes. It's not there always. Or it becomes a different individuality in sleep. And in fact, it's not even there in sleep, and in swapna, you can even take a different individuality. So from all these things, what we have to understand is the waker also is mithya, dreamer also is mithya. Understanding dreamer as mithya is the easiest thing of the three. And sleeping also, there is no sleeping for Atma. Understand that. By mistake, we attribute sleep to Atma. Atma is always awake. Atma is always of the same nature of consciousness. Everything becomes evident to Atma. If nothing is there to be known, Atma is still shining in the same manner. That's why you can get up and say, I did not know anything. Is that clear? So there is no sleep for Atma. In fact, my Puji Swamiji used to do like this. He used to say Alupta Drika. Atma is Alupta Drika, means it never stops seeing. And then he'll say it is like this. It doesn't have any eyelids also. So it's always open. So Drishte Drashtaram, like that it is said, and Viparilopo na Vidyate, like that Brihadaranyaka also says. There is no stopping. The one who is the seer of the sight, for that seer, there is no stopping of seeing. It always sees. Because that's its very nature. It's not a separate activity or anything, correct? Atma's nature is to be conscious, that's all. It's not an activity or anything which it is doing separately so that it can come to a stop. Your very nature can never go away, correct? That's why it's your very nature. And it has to be invariable, unchanging, and that's what it is. So that's what one has to understand. So we'll continue this in the next class. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.